Good morning. My name is Mrs. Kabaj, and I am your child's physical therapist. I wanted to take a few minutes to discuss the two types of assessments that I use to test your child's gross motor skills. I specifically used what's called the Gross Motor Function Measure, or GMFM, and the Peabody Gross Motor Scale, or PDMS-2 for version 2. Let's talk about the GMFM first. This is what's called a criterion-referenced test, and the purpose of a criterion-referenced test is to identify mastery of specific gross motor skills. In this case, we looked at gross motor skills or milestones in several different areas or domains. First, lying and rolling. Second, sitting. Third, crawling and kneeling. Fourth, standing. And then fifth, walking, running, and jumping. As you know, many of which are necessary parts of your child's school day. Each of those skills in those areas is scored using criteria such as does not initiate, initiates, partially completes, or fully completes the skill. Your child's performance is scored based on mastery, so whether they can or cannot do the skill of that gross motor skill, and isn't compared to the performance of any other students. Scores reflect your child's changes over time. The total score that I report will be a percentage. And as an example, if your child scored 100% in lying and rolling, 90% in sitting, 100% in crawling and kneeling, 72% in standing, and then 50% in the walking, running, jumping area, the total would be 412%. Divided by the 5 areas that I tested, which would equal a total percent of 82.4% on the GMFM. So that's the GMFM, which is a criterion reference test. I also tested your student using what's known as a norm reference test, specifically the Peabody Gross Motor Scale. The purpose of this type of test is to measure how your child's gross motor skills compare to a sample group of children the same age. It's designed to identify students that have higher gross motor skill levels and those with lower gross motor skill levels. Each skill is given a score value of 2, 1, or 0, depending on their performance. I looked at 3 different areas of gross motor skills on this test. First is stationary, which would be maintaining or holding a position. Locomotion, which would be your main movement, such as walking, running, navigating stairs, and jumping. And then third is object manipulation or ball skills, so throwing, catching, and kicking a ball. After coming up with raw scores in each of those areas, those raw scores can be interpreted to reflect a child's age equivalent, percentile rank, and even gross motor quotient based on, again, a comparison of your child to a sample group of other children their same age. For example, if your child achieved a stationary raw score of 45 points, this would indicate an age equivalent of 40 months and function at the 5th percentile. It would also show me that their standard score is 5, which would be in the poor range of what we call a bell curve. So it would be kind of on the lower end. And these are all based on a comparison of his skill performance for his age versus the norm or the sample group. I understand that this terminology can be overwhelming and confusing, so I hope this information is helpful to you to understand the 2 different types of tests that I used, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.